I will call to order this meeting. We'll begin with our national anthem. And if you are able, please stand. Please be seated. Oh, Canada sounds very good with a full house. So we'll begin with the roll call by our clerk.
Mayor Sue Patterson.
Present.
Deputy Mayor Warren Dickert.
Present.
Councillor Harold Fleet. Councillor Harold Fleet. Councillor Fleet is online. He maybe is having some technical issues. Councillor Dave Hawking.
Present.
Councillor Carol Hudson.
Present.
Councillor Brandon Cable.
Present.
Councillor Susan Sacco.
Present.
Thank you, Vicky. All members are accounted for. I'll begin with the land acknowledgement. As we work toward reconciliation with Indigenous people, we begin our meeting today by respectfully acknowledging that we are situated on the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe Nation, the people of Three Fires known as Ojibwe, Odawa, and Potawatomi nations, and further give thanks to the Chippewas of Saugeen and the Chippewas of Nawash, now known as the Saugeen Ojibwe Nation, as the traditional keepers of this land. So welcome to our regular council meeting for Monday, May the 4th, 2026. Good afternoon, council, staff, guests, the viewing public, and the media. Council, does anyone have a disclosure of pecuniary interest or a conflict of interest? And as always, if one should arise during the meeting, you may declare it then. Item 5 is agenda additions or deletions, and we do not have any this afternoon. Our health and safety message reflects the town's strong commitment to safety of both staff and residents. It is intended to raise awareness of potential risks, encourage safe practices, and support the prevention of injuries, illnesses, and fatalities. Our health and safety message is brought to us by Councillor Sacco.
Thank you, Your Worship. Today's message is protect your eyes this season. Seasonal environmental factors, including intense UV radiation, high pollen counts, and extreme temperatures, pose significant risks to eye health, causing conditions like allergic conjunctivitis, dry eye syndrome, and increased risk of cataracts. Protecting your eyes involves using UV protective sunglasses, limiting exposure to allergens and wind, and maintaining humidity. Protect your eyes year-round by wearing wraparound-style sunglasses that block 100% of UVA and UVB rays, and wear a wide-brimmed hat. UV exposure can be high, even on cloudy days, and when near water or reflective surfaces. Wildfire smoke can irritate the eyes, causing redness, dryness, burning, and increased sensitivity to light. During poor air quality events, Limit outdoor exposure. Keep windows and doors closed and use air filtration indoors when available. Spring and summer allergens such as pollen can trigger itchy, red, watery eyes and eyelid swelling. Avoid rubbing your eyes as this can worsen inflammation. Wash hands and face after outdoor exposure. Keep windows closed during high pollen periods and seek medical advice if symptoms persist or interfere with daily activities. Seek care promptly if eye symptoms such as pain, persistent redness, light sensitivity, or changes in vision do not approve.
Thank you, Councillor Sackle. A timely message. Item 7, we do not have a public meeting under the Planning Act, so we'll move right into our delegation. This is 8.1, and we have Alina Rakoff here talking about the East End Community Trail Loop. Welcome, Alina.
Okay. All right. Hello, Council. Hello, everyone. Welcome to all the folks who also came today. My name's Alina Rakoff, and I'm going to be talking about my support and the community support for the East End Trail project, specifically the naturalized section that was meant to go ahead this year and was canceled on March 16th at the regular council meeting. So there's a lot to go over. I hope everyone got a chance to look at the council package. I'm going to be skimming over a lot of it. So if you have questions, that kind of stuff, please hold us to the end, obviously, but I'm gonna get right into it. So the ask for all the residents in support, we are asking that you reinstate the originally planned naturalized trail project along the west and south edges of the Soggy and Cedar Heights West subdivision, with some possible modifications to the project, but generally as written. And the reason being is because, number one, this kind of fulfills a promise that was made when that old section got removed and that subdivision got sold off to replace the lost naturalized trail section with a new one. And then also that the concerns raised by the other delegation and by residents online and by some councillors can generally be addressed in a variety of ways, most very doable, and that don't really warrant, in our opinion, cancellation of that naturalized trail section, or some of these are unsubstantiated in reality. So we're going to get right into it. What I mean when I say promise to the community, in May 2022, the trail section from the edge of that subdivision out to 24th was closed and then subsequently removed for the development of that subdivision. There was a lot of backlash at that point. I heard from a lot of angry residents about that, people who were upset at the loss of that naturalized bit, and were kind of pacified by the promised, or at least in the documentation, oh, we're not getting it, sorry. I've just noticed we're not getting it on the screen. Can I move that up? My apologies. Oh, that is very, Nope.
Your summary notes are different. Your summary notes are different than what's in.
Yeah, I'm coming off of, I've got a slideshow here that I'm actually looking at that was meant to be on the screen, unfortunately. Let me see. Ooh, all kinds of stuff is happening up here. Okay. Unforeseen. Let's see, is there? Yeah, it's all plugged in. Let me just re-plug that in, I guess. Because you should be seeing a slideshow is the problem.
Is there any way I'm gonna email
I
that?
slide that to a different screen.
No. Oh, that's an email.
Oh, there we go. Sorry. I was like, sorry, it must be doing a double screen thing. Okay, so sorry. Technology gets the best of us. Okay, so now you know what I'm looking at here. Here we go. Okay, this is where I was at. So this project several years ago, we lost that section of the trail. People were kind of upset about it, and I think we're broadly pacified. I know I told a number of people there was a naturalized trail section coming up in the plans, hopefully. And then there was several council votes from 2027 to 2023, kind of with the intent to go ahead with that. Several other planning points to do the naturalized section. In regards to the comparison between sidewalks and trails, obviously there's a lot of similarities between these two things. We've got pedestrian infrastructure for walking, running. We've got encouragements to exercise outdoors, and as well as transportation connectivity. That is going to be the same whether we do a trail or sidewalk option, but the trail presents some unique opportunities in the categories of vehicle separation from traffic, a little bit improved safety, I would argue, and less noise from vehicles. We've got a shaded and protected space that the two subdivisions bordering this area don't currently offer. So lower temperatures in the summer and some protection from wind and other weather. Lower no cost access to green space. This is particularly top of mind for me. I do not own a vehicle and I do not have the privilege of having a backyard. So green spaces like this spread throughout the town are a big deal for me and for other residents in a similar situation. And we've got some unique uses that trails offer that sidewalks can't: snowshoeing, cross-country skiing, and winter walking. Some people I talk to use the trail all year round for those uses, depending on the weather. So the big question is, why? What about this project was so dire that it needed to be canceled right before the kind of direct implementation at the last minute there? So I'm going to go over a bunch of these really fast. Environmental damage was one of the main concerns brought up, wetland destruction being one of them. The EIS covers all of this, all of the assessments of, is it sensitive? Are there invasive species or endangered species rather? Are there birds, bats, other animals nesting in that area? And is it going to cause damage to the watershed? The answer to all those questions is generally no. This is a pretty small area and the impacts of a trail through there are not that significant. In regards to tree loss, we've got a lot of young trees along that strip, not very old trees or really significant ones there. So clearing them isn't as much of a big deal. And this area is considered culturally influenced, meaning that there's a lot of introduced species and it's just been influenced by the surrounding development for quite a long time. This is on page 18 of the environmental assessment. So we can see when we look at this top-down map, you can look at these two sections kind of on either end with the strip for the trail in the middle. These are bigger, more important sections. We've got wetland on the south kind of east side there, and a larger pocket. I mean, the whole Saugeen River has its own buffers, obviously, but some of those sections are a little bigger, and some of the species that they were looking for are present in those areas, but not along this little strip. Environmental damages, limestone got brought up. I talked to a geologist in regards to this. Limestone as a trail topper, not an environmental concern. This is something that we use standard across Ontario and is a recommended practice, actually. Our entire Canadian Shield is limestone, so this is not an environmental concern. Our groundwater already interacts with this on a regular basis. And if you can find anybody better than a geologist, I would love to hear it, but I think that kind of takes care of that one. In regards to flooding, we had a once in almost 10-year flooding event this year. Water was extremely high. Snowpack was higher than normal. March rainfall was almost 300% normal. And April rainfall was almost 200% normal. So we had a lot of flooding that is abnormal for that area. We had some pictures of how severe the flooding was along that creek side. So part of it was to do with just the environmental conditions at this particular year. We've also got some localized construction that is affecting this. Obviously, the subdivision is having a big impact on that. A lot of runoff coming from there that is not going to be happening once those houses and landscaping go in. But specifically, these sections, these are both graded down towards that creek. The North Hill, just completely full of runoff. That was a big one. And then that south section just got cleared. It did have plants on it before, but it has been cleared for that new development there. Once the grading and the storm sewers get sorted out there, that will significantly diminish the amount of water that's going into that basin. There's also a wetland, and this portion has some invasive frag grass in it that could be dealt with. This will help to improve water infiltration in that section because frag grass is really, really damaging to wetlands. So we could also deal with that as a potential option. We've also got lots of flooding in other areas of the trail. We'll see if this wants to actually work. Maybe. This is from the Hammer Park last year. This was when it was the highest See if that even wants to go. But we've dealt with flooding in lots of other areas with our infrastructure to varying levels. Lots of fast moving water through there, extremely high water, covers a lot of the stuff that we paid for in that park as well. We know how to deal with this. We go back to our engineering firms, we go back to the people who've designed these sections, and we kind of consult with them to make sure that that is going to be feasible. So that's from last year at the peak. This year, about a month later, so April 23rd of this year, that's what the park looks like right now. We get about a month of flooding-ish before it really goes down. And this is the creek section the day after that. So it was very flooded initially in March. What I would love to know is how long that was for, how fast it cleared out, because the section drains rapidly into the Saugeen. It is a drainage basin, so it is clearing out fairly quickly. And I feel like we can speak to our engineers about kind of managing that appropriately. So that kind of handles most of the flooding stuff. There were some other things about runoff concerns that we can deal with plantings and other tech solutions. The EIS also covers mitigation measures, 4 pages from 22 to 26, if you can have a look at those. And then next is cost. So we had a lot of claims about how exorbitantly expensive this is going to be. We've got our total 160-ish, but 60,000 is coming from taxes. We've got 48 coming from a grant, which is now in jeopardy. We might actually lose that grant. 24 is for a different section of the trail not related to this construction project, and 28 is a developer contribution. So from our tax money, $60,000 for this trail project, relatively low cost, I would argue, especially when we put it into context with other development projects that we've done. So the splash pad is an estimated $55,000 a year to run, and that gets 3 months of use. In the year, for temperature reasons, we can't run it longer because it can damage the equipment as far as I'm aware. So $55,000 a year estimated, where the annual trail maintenance for the entire trail is $5,000 to $7,000. So we're talking an order of magnitude difference, 10 times for overall trail maintenance, with that being able to be used for approximately the whole year in varying degrees. So when we're talking about exorbitant cost, we really got to put it into perspective with those other types of infrastructure projects, because this completes a large section with fairly low cost overall. I think the splash pad is great, by the way. It's not a hit on the splash pad. It's wonderful, but we could be putting money into the trail and still be well within the bounds of reasonable. Other community infrastructure projects, we've got baseball diamond stuff, we've got soccer field stuff, that those projects are going to be $1 million plus. So for a $60,000 tax expenditure, or if we're going to go with that whole 160K number, that's still really low compared to some of the infrastructure things that are needed. So we got a quick-ish, fairly low cost win with this trail section. The last kind of set of concerns were about privacy and safety. A lot of these are fairly, I would argue, subjective, depending on where you are along the trail. We've got privacy planting options. Several of people that I spoke to, myself included, would love to help residents plan those privacy plantings, actually. We've got some technical expertise in plantings and physical labor that we would love to do to help folks get that in if they feel overwhelmed. At least in regards to the safety stuff, trespassing, theft, and vandalism, Hanover Police covered this in one of the committee meetings, I believe. So this is a very just short summary. Mini bikes, dirt bikes, other vehicle use were some complaints, arrests from Walmart thefts, and no reports of violence from homeless encampments. And generally, they seem to have a pretty good handle on trail safety. Police don't seem to be that concerned about it. And our Trail Eyes and Ears volunteers do a great job of monitoring the trail. If anyone is interested in volunteering for that, you can talk to Parks and Rec, because I think we got 2 new applicants, thanks to this whole process, who are going to be part of that volunteer group to monitor the trail. In terms of lowering quality of life or lowering property values, this is generally also not quite substantiated. We've got limited sidewalks in both subdivisions, less than 10% tree canopy coverage. I can provide the website that I use to find that number. And then we've got issues around like NIMBYism. When we just don't want a project to happen, it's scary, change is scary. It's hard to look at things and understand what that's going to look like in the future. And we kind of have to get past some of those. And that's capable public education and just kind of a understanding of what Hanover could be. I do want to bring to light, though, this is a shot from Barrie, Ontario. I was there yesterday, actually, on Sunday. This is a trail section through one of their subdivisions that my friend lives along. Very similar type setup, very close to houses through a tiny little naturalized area. And this is what it looks like. So they've got some tree plantings, but they've got backyards open there, fairly close to the trail in this spot, and even closer here. It's a little hard to see in the picture, but those houses are quite close. And then on the other side, just by those evergreens, is where the developer fence is. So this is very very similar to what this proposed like Hanover Trail section would look like in some spots. We've also got some sections of the trail where it's very close to these property lines, just like on our proposed section. Homeowners take a variety of approaches to handle this privacy-wise. This person has been living there 27 years and only just this year put up that fabric fencing, I think because their trees are finally dying off. But that was one option. Some people, or sorry, this was a comparable section along the trail where we've got just the trail going to be or proposed to be closer to a fence, so we can see what that could potentially look like. And then some people leave it open. They leave the back of their properties naturalized. They let the trees grow. That fills in a lot more thickly in the summer. I've been there in the summer. It's quite nice. But some people leave it open. Other people choose to put up additional privacy fencing that's taller and more solid than the black fence that the developer put in. So a lot of ways to handle this, and it just depends on the individual homeowner preferences, but very doable in that type of situation. Just for comparison, this is what we've got in the north subdivision right now. Tree exposure is one of my biggest concerns. It's going to be very exposed, hot in summer, windy and colder in the winter, and it just overall experience not necessarily as great. That's the road looking down south into the subdivision, and I do want to point out that at least for privacy concerns, the two houses in the corner, you can see right into their backyards from a block away on the road. So when we're talking about privacy concerns, we do have to put it into that kind of context of what else people can see from what places. And then this is a south subdivision, same deal, no sidewalks, not a lot of tree cover, not the nicest pedestrian experience when we could have something like this instead. I think most people would argue that that's a little bit more pleasant for their overall enjoyment. Getting right along. Separation from drivers, already talked about that. At least in terms of property values, a meta-analysis of 49 studies looking at the effect of parklands on home prices generally found that they go up. Anywhere from a very small amount to a significant 20% more or even higher in some cases, depending on the exact manifestation. Better facilities increase property values more. The ones that see a decrease are abandoned or neglected and they just look bad. But if you maintain your park facilities and trails, et cetera, people generally near them will see quite significant increases in property values. So all of that in consideration, the residents are left to ask, what about this project is so problematic that it needed to be canceled at the last minute? For many of us, we're just kind of, I'd say, fairly upset and confused about why that needed to be the case. Since this trail is a building for the public good, it's low cost, it's green recreational space, and it's accessible to any Hanover resident with low barrier to entry, especially for folks on the east end. It can demonstrate a integrity in our decision-making process of we stuck to our guns and we went through all of the steps, all of the prep, all of the permits, all of the assessments that we needed to do, and we went along with it. That I would love council to uphold that. And then we can demonstrate our capacity for iterative solutions. Nothing is ever perfect when we first design it. As we've seen with other parts of our trail, seasonal things happen. Stuff gets destroyed and we have to fix it. But I think it's worth the time and effort for the, again, relatively low cost to stick with those, considering the great community benefit that finishing those naturalized sections can provide. So again, we're asking council to reinstate that East End Trail project as originally planned in the naturalized area along the south and west edges of the subdivision. Excuse me. And we now have a year to do it. We can't do the project until next spring. So we had a whole year to get through that. And I encourage council and staff to do that. And then lastly, thanks to everyone else who came out, all the folks who spoke to me, sent me emails, asked for clarifications. It was very helpful in getting this all together. And that's it. Thanks very much.
So thank you, Alina. Council, any questions at this time for Alina? Knowing that we will be reviewing, I'll be highlighting the letters that are further on, and then I will ask if there's any direction from council. But if you have specific questions for Alina, you're welcome to ask. Councillor Cable.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you, Alina, for your in-depth presentation. I really do appreciate the extensive review that you've done of the environmental impact study and the commentary that you provided on the other items that were certainly brought forward as a concern. I think the decision to alter the trail plan certainly came as a surprise for many, and perhaps having a couple of months to reflect on it, I think that perhaps council should have, or my opinion is that council should have deferred the decision just to seek the input of Parks and Rec advisory, planning advisory, the community before making a decision. And so while we might have come to the same conclusion, I think that the information that's been provided is really beneficial to have, right, and to have input from a variety of stakeholders. So as you're aware, we are currently waiting on a follow-up staff report, and that report will provide a variety of sidewalk-based options to complete the loop on the south side of that subdivision. And so I'm hoping that that report will also provide some additional information so council can finalize next steps. So thank you very much for coming today. I think it's important that you brought forward the delegation and that everyone's here today. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cable. Our CAO Sherry has a comment.
Just to follow up on your comment, Councillor Cable, just with respect to the staff report. So again, this council direction that we have at this point in time is to provide a staff report with respect to sidewalks. So if you wish that report to include other things, you will need to provide that direction accordingly.
I'll ask again. Anyone else? Comments or questions for Alina? Seeing none, thank you very much. Very comprehensive, a lot of work. Thank you. All right, we have a couple of items of business before we get into the correspondence. So I'll start with item 9. This is our council minutes. 9.1, I need a mover and seconder to put that on the floor before they're highlighted. Deputy Mayor Dickert and Councillor Sackle. These are the regular council meeting minutes from April 20th, and I'll just highlight a few items. We had a delegation from Chris White. He is the president and CEO of Earth Power. Earth Power is in the process of purchasing Westario Power, and he provided an overview of the company's services and strategic objectives. We also had a delegation from Carolyn Cascanet. Carolyn is the CEO of our Hanover Public Library. The Library Board has requested Council to form a library investigation ad hoc committee to explore the options for a new or renovated library space. Council directed staff to provide a follow-up report. Council proclaimed the month of May as Building Safety Month. This is important, an important reminder of the work that keeps our homes, businesses, and public spaces safe and resilient. Council approved an increase of $60,000 to the project budget for the fire department's rescue pumper. This is to be financed through reserves until external funding is secured. And Council approved the agreement between the Town of Hanover and the Owen Sound Police Services for the provision of the Hanover Fire Department dispatch services. So I will call the question. All in favor of adopting the council meeting minutes dated April 20th, 2026? That is carried. You cannot move the motion if you are not present. So, okay, item 10 is business arising from the minutes. So I will ask, is there any discussion or comments, questions with that set of minutes? Seeing none, we'll move on to the correspondence requiring action. As all the correspondence is about the East End Trail Loop, there will be discussion after the correspondence is highlighted, along with any direction that council sees to give. So before I begin the correspondence related to the East End Trail Loop, I want to offer some context. This is to ensure everyone here in the council chamber and anyone following along online has the full background. Council has received important input on this matter. At our March 16th meeting, we heard directly from residents through a delegation whose properties would abut, be near, or be in the area of the proposed trail. They raised concerns about privacy, safety, and environmental impacts. What we heard was meaningful and informed the decision council made at the time. This is the motion that was carried: that the entire proposed East End Trail from the existing community trail east to 24th Avenue be eliminated, and that further negotiations occur with the developer to reallocate the developer's trail contribution to the construction of sidewalks on 18th Street, 23rd Avenue, and 19th Street, and that a costing be provided for extending a sidewalk from 19th Street to 20th Street and 24th Avenue. That, at this present time, will be what comes back in the report that the CAO was referring to. Since then, we have also heard from other members of our community through phone calls, emails, and the Parks, Recreation, and Culture Advisory Committee, who see value in constructing the trail and moving the project forward. That input is equally important. As mayor, part of my responsibility is to guide council when controversial issues arise. As I reflect on the input received to date, as well as the council discussion at the March 16th meeting, I share the following. I hold myself accountable and want to acknowledge that I should have advised council before making a decision. We needed to hear from all sides. I apologize for not doing so. As a council, our role is not to respond to only one set of voices, but to consider the full range of perspectives within our community. Good governance requires openness, careful listening, and a commitment to understanding both the impacts and the benefits of any decision before us. If council is to revisit this matter, I believe it is essential that we do so with a complete picture, ensuring all viewpoints are heard, weighed, and respected. That is how we make balanced, informed decisions that serve the broader community while acknowledging the legitimate concerns of those most directly affected. We have been in a similar situation before. In 2025, council faced a decision where there were strong views on both sides. At that time, we received many letters urging reconsideration, and I highlighted each one and noted who sent it. I intend to do the same approach today. I encourage everyone to read the letters in full when time permits. You will notice that 8 letters appear under correspondence requiring action, and 4 additional letters appear later in the agenda under the consent agenda. Those 4 letters did not request a specific action of council, which is why they were placed there. While consent agendas are adopted as a single item, council has the ability to pull items for further discussion or clarification. I plan to pull the 4 trail-related letters. Although they will be received for information, I will still highlight them. When a resident takes the time to put their concerns in writing, I believe we have a responsibility to listen. So on with item 11 on the agenda, which is correspondence requiring action. The first one, 11.1, is from the chair, Keith Hopkins, of the Advisory Committee for Parks, Recreation, and Culture. The committee is disappointed that this decision was made without consultation, given our council-approved mandate is to provide input on both annual and long-term capital planning related to parks, recreation, and culture. We were not provided the opportunity to comment or provide feedback prior to council's decision. As a committee established to represent resident interests and advise on capital development priorities, we believe our perspective should have been sought before a decision of this significance was made. As outlined in the staff report, the East End Trail project has a well-documented history supported by extensive multi-year planning, supported by the Parks, Recreation, and Culture Master Plan and the Town of Hanover Strategic Action Plan. Public engagement, design, development, environmental review, and coordination with external stakeholders have all been completed. The project had received Saugeen Valley Conservation Authority approval and was council reviewed and adopted in the 2026 budget with secured grant funding in place. Given the advanced stage of the project, the decision to cancel is difficult to understand. The committee recognizes that the project generated both concerns and positive feedback within the community. We are aware of strong support from residents who value the trail, its connections to nature, and its role in completing the East End Loop. In our view, this broader community support was not fully considered in Council's decision-making process. The committee is concerned that the decision to halt or redirect the project reflects a limited range of input rather than a balanced consideration of the wider community and the municipality's long-term recreational goals. The proposed trail segment would have provided a unique nature-based experience along publicly owned lands, offering a form of recreation that sidewalks along existing roadways cannot replicate. It represents a meaningful addition to the community's parks and trail network. For these reasons, the PRC Advisory Committee respectfully requests that Council reevaluate its decision. We believe a plan can be developed through compromise to provide a connective trail system with lasting benefits for the community. Item 11.2, this is from Scott Armstrong. I am writing to formally request that Council reconsider the recent abrupt decision to halt the wetland portion of the East End Trail. While I appreciate the environmental passion expressed by the March 16th delegation, I believe the arguments presented were environmentally inconsistent and technically incomplete. The long-term management needs of this corridor require the completion of the trail as originally envisioned over a decade ago. Further in Scott's letter, he comments about the creek bed is an urban environment that requires active management. So I encourage Council to seriously consider trails on both sides of the creek, effectively turning this corridor into a managed drainage and recreation asset that protects the town's interests on both banks. Scott speaks about the environmental argument, protecting the financial investment, the need for asset monitoring, encroachment of sheds, fences, and bridges on public land, which create liability and safety concerns for the town. Addressing safety and NIMBY concerns. NIMBY is not in my backyard. Alignment with the town's official plan. The East End Creek corridor is explicitly designated as a future primary trail. It was never planned as a secondary connecting link or simple sidewalk. And further, truth and reconciliation, the town can ensure the trail is a site of cultural restoration with the Saugeen Ojibwe Nation. So in conclusion, Scott says, this one, the final here, I strongly encourage Hanover Town Council to be brave and support your staff. I encourage you to transform this wetland into a trail on both sides of the bank, making it a site for ecological restoration and cultural representation rather than a dangerous liability, and provide buffer for a select few. Item 11.3 is from Dale and Kathy Cousins. We are writing to express disappointment with the recent decision regarding the change in plans for Hanover's East End trails. Nature trails are more than just recreational amenities. They contribute to public health, environmental stewardship, tourism, and overall quality of life. Decisions of this magnitude deserve to be guided by comprehensive community engagement and a balanced consideration of all perspectives, not disproportionately swayed by a limited segment of opposition. In our effort to stand out and draw people to our town, we should remember that sidewalks are common and everywhere, ordinary and expected, while nature trails are far more unique. We urge Council to revisit this matter with a more inclusive and data-driven approach. Whether through broader consultation, surveys, or public forums, it is essential to ensure that decisions truly reflect the will and best interests of the entire community. 11.4, this is from Doug Karn. I have been involved with the Hanover Trails Eyes and Ears as a volunteer since its inception. I have been involved in the development of the secondary trails, as well as cleanup, maintenance, and reporting issues. I am very passionate about our trails. Walking and biking our trails, I encounter all trail levels from all walks of life, enjoying the natural beauty of the Saugeen River. I feel the trails that run from the South Line to behind Walmart is a natural treasure for our town. These trails bring countless hours of pleasure to both visitors and residents. It is my understanding that the subdivision developer, Saugeen Valley Conservation, and the Town Planning Board, along with Parks and Recreation, have been working tirelessly on this extension plan for the replacement trail for years. With permits and approval grant in place, this project was scheduled to begin before the end of March. A very small group, less than 1% of the town's population, opposed this extension, stating privacy, safety, and environmental issues. Since being at my residence since 1992, I have not had a reportable incident on my property, so I feel these concerns are not valid. I would like to emphasize that our trails are used by walkers, bikers, bird watchers, mobility impaired users, snowshoers, and cross-country skiers. In a nature environment, these activities require a trail, not a sidewalk. This letter is addressed to the entire council to ask that they revisit this important matter, which ultimately shapes our town. 11.5 is from Barbara Hicks. I was disappointed to learn that council recently made the decision to pause the construction of the East End Trail extension, directing staff to investigate the cost of extending the trail using sidewalks instead. The trail extension has long been anticipated by members of the community, like me and my family, who use it for outdoor recreation. Using a sidewalk is simply not the same as using a nature trail. The town engaged with stakeholders about this trail over the years and who gave overwhelmingly support for further investment and planning around our trails. Now those voices are being disregarded. I hope that council will reconsider its decision and proceed with the project as intended. 11.6 is from Brian McMahon. I am writing to let you know I do not agree with your decision made at the March 16th meeting to change the plans for the East End Trail construction. The delegation that was in attendance at that meeting to voice their concerns about the perceived negative impacts on their neighborhood did not represent the views of most trail users. I counted only 82 signatures on the petition, representing 53 addresses. That is approximately 1% of Hanover's population and residential properties. The delegation's main arguments seem to be about the increased risk of trespassing, theft, vandalism, and general safety. Chief Knoll said there has never been acts of violence reported to the Hanover Police on the trails, and in fact, they have been able to reduce some of the time they patrol the trails and divert their resources to other areas of town. If the trails were actually unsafe, the police would be there more often. Other arguments they had was having less privacy and it would decrease their property value. I, as well as many people, would love to have easy access to a public trail near me, and that might even add value to a property. I have been a Hanover Trails Eyes and Ears volunteer since it was formed. I, as well as my fellow volunteers, are devoted, active members that report incidents that need attention to the town staff and, of course, to emergency services whenever it is needed. In fact, in 2025, 33 out of the 35 items that needed attention by town staff, which were graffiti, trees down, and litter, were reported by the Eyes and Ears volunteers. I would like to see the decision reversed and go back to the original proposed design of the trail. I feel, though, this decision may not have been thought out as well as it could have been. I trust you will give more consideration to this decision that affects many more people than the group the delegation represented. represented. 11.7 is from Melissa Arsenault. As someone who thoroughly enjoyed that section of trail before it was demolished, I'm shocked to hear that instead of that naturalized trail rebuild, there's a possibility of a sidewalk instead. There are countless studies on the benefits, both mental and physical, of walking in nature, under trees, and yes, on earth instead of concrete. Walking on hot concrete in the blazing sun is a sure way to keep people from using a trail. Please reconsider the original naturalized trail plan, even if it requires a couple of changes. It benefits all of us immensely to have beautiful natural trails to walk, bike, run on, whether for pleasure or to just get around town. 11.8 is from Kevin and Nicole Freiberger. We love the trail system in Hanover, and our family uses it often. We were looking forward to the East End Trail being completed and are hoping that you will reconsider and construct the trail as previously planned. Having a proper trail system also brings people to the community that enjoy the outdoors for walking, biking, skiing. While here, they often support some of our local businesses. We feel it would be an asset to Hanover to have them run further and give more of an opportunity for the residents and visitors to stay active. So that is the end of the letters that were included under correspondence requiring action. So I'm just going to put this out there. There are some options for council. And one of them is to let the March 16th resolution stand as is. Another option would be to reconsider the motion, which requires a council member who voted on the prevailing side of the decision to bring a motion to reconsider. The reconsideration requires a 2/3 vote to be carried. And one other option that I have thought of, and council may have other options that they would like to see, is to let the resolution stand as is, and if no action has been taken in implementing the resolution, it could be brought back at any time during a new term of council. So now I'll open it up to council for direction, discussion, comments, questions. Anyone want to comment? Councillor Hudson?
Thank you, Mayor Sue. Can you just repeat your third option again, please, so that we're clear on that?
So if the resolution stands as it is, and there is no construction, no implementing of the resolution at all, because this council term ends this year, a new term of council can bring it forward to have the trail constructed. There is nothing to say that a motion that we make today or this year or last year cannot be reversed or changed or amended with a new term of council. It's just out there. It happens for anything. So we need some direction here. If you're in agreement to let the resolution stand is, or if you want to reconsider it. And again, I would suggest if you're going to reconsider it, you rescind the entire motion as is and start out with a new one. It becomes very difficult when you pick and choose portions of it, and I'm looking to the clerk to guide me on this, if you'd like to speak to that.
Thank you, Your Worship. So under correspondence for action, to dispense with that request of action, there has to be a council motion to either accept or deny. There is a possibility, if you would like to reconsider the motion that was passed at March 16th, that can be brought forward, but we do need to dispense with the correspondence requesting action.
Counselor Hudson,
Can we make a motion to receive it for information and consideration as opposed to dispensing?
You could do that. Consideration at a future date would need to be noted. The date for consideration should be noted within a certain specific amount of time.
So it needs a specific date?
Otherwise, you're tabling it or deferring it for an indefinite period of time.
Counselor Cable,
Thank you, Worship. Just wondering if staff have an approximate date as far as when the staff report from March 16th, when we would expect to receive that?
So two things. Because of the feedback that the March 16th direction from council prompted to staff and to you, we had paused taking any further steps to ensure that we knew we were on the same path that council direction was. So again, tonight, pending your direction, if it's to maintain bringing back information with respect to the sidewalks, then we'll have to chat with staff. I'm thinking by the end of June, for sure. We could have a report back here by the end of June, but there's a few things that have to come into play with that. Again, our direction from you right now is sidewalks. There'll be no other options.
I still would like to see that report, as well as have an update on the status of the grant application. It was my understanding that part of the grant was related to the refurbishment of the trail east of 24th Avenue. That's contrary, I think, to what was presented in the delegation this evening, where it was stated that it was all coming from reserves. So just hoping we get some clarification on where we're at in terms of that grant.
go ahead, Laura.
Through your worship, just to echo some of the comments from Sherry, we certainly haven't taken any direct, we haven't approached them directly yet in order to make sure that we are on the appropriate path. So at this point, there is nothing to report back about the current status of the existing grant money. But you are correct that there is $24,000 of that grant money that is allocated towards the section that would be considered from County Road 28 or 24th Ave to that turn in the switchback for some rehabilitation there. That portion of the project can proceed. So that's that money, that 24,000 is not in jeopardy.
Okay, CAO Sherry and then Counselor Sack.
Laura, can you just clarify though, is 24,000 the total estimated cost of that refurbishment and the grant is only a percentage of that amount? Or is it 24,000 in grant funding is towards the refurbishment? Just so we're clear.
I can clarify that. So the 24,000 is for that section. The total grant money, I'm going off memory without, is 48,000 in total.
So just again, to clarify, so that portion of the grant is in jeopardy?
No.
No?
So the 24,000 is the only portion of the grant money that's not in jeopardy because that project can proceed. It's not within the scope of this. So the grant application had several sections of the trail. So this section can proceed. So assuming the grant will have no problem with proceeding with that, I don't see any problem with that either.
So the 20,000, the rest of it is still okay.
24,000 is okay. And it's the remaining. So what did we say? It would be another 23,000 that would be in jeopardy.
Okay,
Yeah.
just to be clear. So
Yeah.
$23,000 to $24,000 is in jeopardy if the trail does not become a natural trail compared to a sidewalk. Okay, Counselor Sack.
So that would make people happy no matter what happens. We will get an improvement from the switchback to 24th Ave. Is that correct?
Through your worship. So that section of trail, it exists. It's essentially, it's the old rail trail. But in the last couple of years, it hasn't been maintained because it's essentially that section has been closed, used often even to help service the new subdivision that was going in. There's been some tree encroachment. The ground needs some resurfacing, regrading, new limestone. So just more for refurbishment versus the reconstruction, let's say.
Through your worship. So originally, Laura, when the trail was going on 18th Street by the creek, you were then having people walk to 24th Ave. Is that correct?
So the section in trail that is in question would link to 24th Ave. Yes. Does that answer your question?
Very much so.
Okay.
So you're expecting people then to walk along 24th Ave, along that road to the entry at the community trails, which is essentially 20th Street of the new subdivision. It goes right through, except there's great big hills of gravel that you can't walk through right now. So that community trail entrance is going to remain. Is that correct?
So the former community trail entrance, which would have been that extension on the west side or east side? So on the, yeah, so that will remain as a trail head. Yes, absolutely. The large piles of dirt, I'm not sure what you're referring to. They certainly are not
So-
on the trail themselves.
I went for a walk with my husband. We passed the dog park. We went through, there is a small canopy of trees that have been left, so I was grateful for that. And then I entered the new subdivision. I have a choice. I can go left on 20th Street. I can go right on 18th Street right now. We went on 20th. It's very quick. And at the end of it, if you will, before it curves, it looks like there's a little cul-de-sac and you're going to have a walkway, my understanding is, across the 24th Ave and then to the community trail entrance, right?
It sounds correct, yes?
So why wasn't the trail directed that way in the first place? Why is it on 18th? Because if I was a mom with a stroller and a dog, which I often see moms with strollers and dogs walking along that highway wanting to go to the other entrance of the old trail to the switchback, it would be very dangerous. I was in jeopardy. I felt unsafe walking along the road. I'm not sure why we're having residents do that on the trail. So that worries me.
Yeah, I think there's a mistake on where exactly you're speaking of, because there is no section of 24th Ave that you are walking without a sidewalk as part of the proposed trail route. Absolutely not.
So that worries me then, because where the old parking lot was by the river, the community trail sign is community trails.
Okay, our CEO wants to make a comment.
So two things. I think that trail sign is no longer there. It's on the east side, or sorry, yeah, east side of the road, but the west side has been removed.
It's on the east side.
You're correct, which is one of the trailheads. So that's one of our trailhead markers. And Laura's correct. Right now, if you think of our East End trail loop, you would not, once we have sidewalks in Saugeen Cedar Heights East, some of the sidewalks, you would be on sidewalk. Council's direction right now is also to look at adding sidewalks between 19th and 20th Street along 24th Ave. So that was part of your March 16th direction, okay? But yeah, basically the East Loop was intended to be the loop through. So you're right, you come off the trail into Saugeen Cedar Heights West. You can go along what I would call the ravine lots, for lack of a better descriptive, because I don't have the streets in front of me and I'll call them wrong. Then there'll be a link down to what was the former parking area, or the existing parking area, but former. You would then cross 24th Ave to get onto the trail section, which takes you to the switchback into Saugeen Cedar Heights East. You then follow Saugeen Cedar Heights East back to 24th Ave, sidewalk to what was to be the new proposed parking lot on 24th Ave, and then the trail along the southern section between Saugeen Cedar Heights West and I think it's Barry's, right? Barry's subdivision.
Counselor Cable, you were going to, not now. Counselor Hawking.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you again, everyone, for coming here tonight, and excellent presentation. I took a walk like Councillor Sackle, and I got to the fork where you go up to 20th, where you slip down on 18th. 618 steps it took me to walk 20th Street. And I came out on County Road 18, or we call it 24th Street, which was just a bit south of where you access the trail to Walmart. So in our motion that we sent to you, there was no mention of sidewalks on 20th. Now, the trail plan shows it to be there. So are we to assume that that sidewalk will be added when the subdivision is complete?
Go ahead, Sherry.
Andrew, you'll know this, correct me if I'm wrong, but 20th Street is part of the Saugeen Cedar Heights West subdivision plan.
That's right.
And those sidewalks will be installed 75% completion approximately. So at the 75, which is what, 3 to 5 years? Pending estimate, 3 to 5 years for those sidewalks to be installed. So those are part of the subdivision agreement for Saugeen Cedar Heights West.
Okay, my point is, a precedent has been set in the eastern, where you walk on sidewalks and you walk on the roads. If we just put the sidewalk, if we just ran the trail up 20th Street to Grey County Road, across and then loop around to the switchback, come out on all the east end that's on sidewalks and roads, come out 14th Street and meet County Road 28 or 24th. That area is about, because I figured it out, 618 steps at 0.6 meters. It's about 370 meters in length. That's that was about a 10-minute walk. And the precedent, as I said, has already been set. Now, it's going to be there anyway, correct? As part of the loop back according to the drawing that I saw.
I'm not sure what you're referring to, but
Well,
already there, like the sidewalks on the 20th Street?
Yeah,
That's correct. They are part of the Saugeen Cedar
they're
Heights
part of
West
the
subdivision.
trail system.
Yep.
So you could loop back and connect the community trail down just east of the dog park, correct? Because there's a fork there right now. You go there right now, and there's a big block of concrete. The guy's going to be building a house. That 18th Street connects to 20th Street, and you go straight down and you come right out to Grey County Road 28, which is just a little bit south of where the original was. So my point is, and I understand the whole environmental issue, but if we were looking at a solution last time, how come we didn't look at just running the trail from the fork up 20th Street over to the eastern part of by the Walmart? Did you follow me, or am I
Can I?
losing everybody? That's what Susan said. Sorry, Councillor Sackle said.
We'll let the
Oh,
CAO,
there it is, right there.
We'll
Can I go up and show it?
just wait 1 second, let the CAO make a comment, so we're all thinking about the same area.
So 2 things. You don't have sidewalks right now between 19th and 20th Street on 24th Ave.
Yeah, that's true.
Exactly what Councillor
Yeah,
Sackle said.
right,
But you've asked for that as part of your option.
right.
I would say you have to remember, council, that staff were moving forward with a council supported trail plan with respect to the East End Trail Loop over a number of years. So the East End Trail Loop, yes, was a combination of nature trails and sidewalks. So we were moving forward with that plan which, as you know from the history in the report in 2016, many years in the making. So again, you don't have sidewalks right now between 19th and 20th Street. If you wish this to be a trail loop that's mostly sidewalks, then your current direction is what staff will bring back to you with costing.
I want to know right here.
Counselor Hawking, no one, like, people online cannot hear
Can
you
I
when
carry
you
the
don't
mic?
use the mic. So, and again, I want to say, people listening online cannot hear you because you're not speaking into the mic. I know you want to point it out, but
Can I yell?
well, maybe, but think of people listening at home. And
That's my point.
again,
It wasn't considered in our original motion, 20th Street sidewalks.
It was, Councillor Hawking. We indicated during the March 16th meeting this very map that talked about sidewalks being in the northern section of Saugeen Cedar Heights West. So that sidewalks between the trail fork that you mentioned, eastward towards the former/existing parking area was noted. So that is part of the loop that forms the loop.
You read me the motion and tell me where it's 20th Street's included.
I will.
Mayor,
I will.
I'll stand corrected.
That the motion was that the entire proposed East End Trail from the existing community trail east to 24th Avenue be eliminated, and that further negotiations occur with the developer to reallocate the developer's trail contribution to the construction of sidewalks on 18th Street, 23rd Avenue, and 19th Street, and that a costing be provided for extending a sidewalk from 19th Street to 20th Street and 24th Avenue. I believe you made that amendment. Okay, before I go to Deputy Mayor Dickert, no, go ahead, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Your Worship. And thank you for your explanation of how this process has to play out. I appreciate that for everyone's sake. And speaking to Councillor Hawking, when I was looking at that original plan, the sidewalks on 20th Street were part of the original subdivision agreement. Therefore, they were not mentioned in that motion. So they've always been there and they would have connected the trail. And I believe it's about a 6-minute walk. You said 600 steps.
Yes.
It's about a 6-minute walk to go from the existing trail to get back to a naturalized trail. Not much different than what we have between Speckwilkin Park and the Stork Club. So we had the when I looked at it and I saw the entire package, I see that the sidewalks in the south part of the subdivision did not connect. They went up and they dead ended where the trail was proposed to cross 22nd Ave. My thoughts, we would be amiss to not connect our sidewalk system so that everybody has use of that, connected over to 24th Ave, which we added on to that project. There was no sidewalks in there. We added that on as a council saying we want to have sidewalks that connect that subdivision so that people could walk up to Walmart and to Canadian Tire and all those all those good places. So when I looked at that and I saw that our trails, basically our sidewalks were dead ending, there's many different opinions and there's a lot of passion about this whole project. I get it, both sides. The reality is if you want the trail, that's one thing, but my concern is it's a well-documented fact. I'm a sidewalk guy. I like to have our sidewalks connecting our communities. I've been on this case for quite a bit. So for me, that was a priority. when I looked at and the attention was brought to me that we don't have sidewalks, and it was my own discovery, but when I looked at the entire concern that, we had people coming in, didn't like the trail going where it was. I looked at the entire package and I saw, well, I do have a concern here with sidewalks too. For me, that 6-minute walk was a good compromise. And that's what we're really looking for is compromise, something that meets everybody's needs. We have a beautiful section of trail down in goes to the south line. I've made that a loop myself. I get my snow tires changed and I go to one of our auto dealers down there. I leave the auto dealer. I walk down to 4th Ave. There's a little bit of trail goes across to 7th Street down. I walk out to the south line. I come back up. I have a loop if I want a loop. There seems to be a lot of concern that we're not going to have a loop, but we do have a loop. Is it a nature trail? Not necessarily a nature trail. And I don't know, a lot of people have said, well, what describes a nature trail? I guess that's a personal opinion, what describes a nature trail in everybody's mind. So we do have sidewalks. We do have an ability to make it a loop. I understand the passion. I know one of the letters there mentioned going in and working on the secondary trails. I was one of the people that went in and did that, spreading wood chips on those secondary trails. I do love our trails. I use them. Years ago, our company had a program where we would give money to communities. We took and we put stone dust on the section of trail that goes from what I call the Harris Pines subdivision up to 7th Street that's allowed that subdivision to connect. I do love trails. People maybe don't believe that, but I actually do love the trails. So I just think this is the best compromise to put the sidewalks in. It lets 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days of the year. Yes, there's going to be storms when that sidewalk's not passable, but it's going to be passable more times than the trail is passable in those winter months of the year. So I've been back out and listened to concerns from residents just this past weekend. We stood there for quite a while talking about it. And I'm not trying to change anybody's mind because I know I can't. Everybody has their reasons. So I really, I'm firm on my commitment. I think I thought it through very well. I believe that what we proposed made sense. And I haven't heard anything that's changed my mind on that. So that's all I can say.
Thank you. Other comments, questions? None online. So we do need to well, that's a good way of saying it. We need to wrap up the correspondence. Each one of those letters asked council to reconsider. So I'll turn to the clerk. Do we need a motion to say receive for information, or yes, we're going to reconsider, or we will table it until we receive the report with the costing on the sidewalks, because the costing may change everything? Or any other options council can think of? Vicky?
Thank you, Your Worship. Excuse me, through you, Mayor Patterson. So we do require a motion to receive and not revisit, receive the correspondence and not revisit the decision. Or you could receive the correspondence and defer reconsideration until the staff report is received with respect to the costing of sidewalks. A motion to that effect so that we could get these, the correspondence off the table.
And again, I will reiterate what the CAO said. The only thing in that report coming back is the costing of the sidewalks. It's not to say we want sidewalk and nature trail or all nature trail or a combination of any or all. Councillor Cable, you look like you want to say something.
Just briefly, Your Worship. So I'm also assuming that in the report, it will talk about the developer's contribution and how that's being allocated towards the sidewalk installation. Is that correct?
Yes, we have to address those things if they so choose to.
So does someone, oh, Deputy Mayor, go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship. A question I do have is, we had $160,000 in the 26 budget for that project. The significant part of that was for those ramps, I believe, at 22nd Avenue. Have we ever had an estimate of what that trail is going to cost us to build? Or is that what the developer was going to supply? And if that's what it was, I believe the developer said we would supply a base stone dust trail. Anything over and above that was required would come back to us. Is that correct? And do we have a price?
Through your worship, that is correct. So it was based on kind of that base trail being that limestone construction. When it was discovered that the ramps on the flanking the 22nd Ave, that's where the price did fall to the town. So we have not received an official quote for, we had no reason to receive a quote for the actual trail construction.
So if during construction they realize, because I have talked to people who were proponents of the trail saying, well, we may need to add some rip wrapping and drainage and things like that. That would not be part of the developer's agreement. That would all come back to us to pay that cost. Is that correct?
No, it's just the ramps themselves. Any of the mitigations that have been put forward by Saugeen Valley, the developer is fully aware of that, and there's no additional cost to the town for those measures.
Other questions, comments? I see Vicky's writing here, so maybe she's preparing a motion. Councillor Hawking.
Yeah, the issue that I fight with is the neighborhood that talks about their request for security, safety, and privacy. And when I looked at Alina's presentation, she showed trails with big fences at the backyard. Whose responsibility would that be to ensure their privacy? Because you walk along that trail and you can look up and there is really no privacy. The security and safety is also an issue that that I want assurance. But I guess the question is, whose responsibility would be to ensure a privacy fence all along that trail? Would that be our cost?
Let me make a comment and then the CAO will. It is the homeowner's responsibility, no different than my own house, backing onto a neighborhood park that is wide open unless I put a fence in. Sherry?
If it was council's direction that we consider the nature trail by installing fencing, then at that point it would become the town's responsibility, yes, but it would go on town property line. And I believe privacy fencing was proposed by the developer at one point through conversations. And again, the same note was made that it would go on the town property line. And as was noted in, I believe, some of the letters and staff referenced in the March 16th report, is that we do know there's encroachment by property owners in that area with sheds, bridges, and other items that a fence would mitigate that as well.
Okay, I'm going to ask Vicky if she's got a motion.
I have the beginning of a motion that council defer reconsideration of motion 63-26 to cancel the naturalized section of the East End Trail Loop pending a staff report outlining a costing for extending sidewalk from 19th Street to 20th Street and 24th Ave and negotiation with the developer to reallocate contribution to the construction of sidewalks.
Okay, and I don't want to do this, but I'm going to ask you to repeat that again because there are people in the gallery that are having difficulty hearing.
You can just give me a moment to type it out fully, and then I will restate.
So, other questions or comments while Vicky's doing putting the motion together. Councillor Hudson, then Councillor Sackle.
Thank you, Your Worship. Should we also, perhaps so that we're very clear with all costing, see what the ramps would have been had we costed them out?
We can probably answer that now if Laura's got it.
While Laura's looking that up, Councillor Sackle has a comment or a question.
Just a comment for the people that are here in chambers today and people online. Do you see how difficult it is to sit in this chair? The decisions that need to be made, trying to make everybody happy and listening to all of the comments and questions and concerns. It's not an easy decision and we don't take it lightly. Thank you.
But it is an election year and the job is very rewarding, so I don't want people shy away. We do need candidates, so. Councillor Cable.
Thank you, Your Worship. Can I just clarify, Sherry, that in the report that's coming back, I know that we talked at the March 16th meeting about the parking lot location. And certainly from my perspective, if the Stone Dust Trail segment on the south side is not going in, it doesn't make a lot of sense, in my opinion, to have a parking lot on 24th Ave across from the Brenly subdivision entrance. So wondering, would you also consider going back to the former parking lot location? Not entirely sure how large that piece of property is. Is there an opportunity to expand that parking lot slightly to make it slightly larger? I do think it makes more sense to have it there. When you're parked there, you can either go straight across on 20th Street to the soccer fields, or you can go east and go on the rail bed.
So the parking area was something we were going to have to reevaluate based on the direction, because I agree with you, it doesn't make much sense to have that in that location. The existing parking area, I parked there myself a few times. I'm going to say 4 to 6 cars comfortably. That was one of the benefits of the new parking area. It's bigger. The sight lines are improved. There was a number of benefits to that, but we'll have to consider that as staff accordingly and what options we have. There is, we might be, again, we'll have to look at the site accordingly. We now will have some property that we don't really have a use for, what others do potentially. Having any luck, Laura, or should we just get back to council about that accordingly?
I can provide a rough estimate if that would appease council for this evening. We're going to use a total of about $80,000 for that.
And Laura, can I just clarify, that's included in the 160, correct?
Correct. Yes.
So that's included in the adopted budget.
That's correct.
Okay, Vicky's ready.
Through you, Mayor Patterson, a potential draft. Sorry, I'm losing my voice. A potential draft resolution that council defer reconsideration of motion 63-26 to cancel the naturalized section of the East End Trail Loop pending a staff report outlining the costing for extending sidewalks from 19th Street to 20th Street and 24th Avenue and the potential reallocation of the developer's trail contribution.
Is that clear?
Your Worship, I don't really feel comfortable with the word cancel. Could we use postpone? Because we don't know what we're doing. Or under consideration. I'm just not sure that I like the word cancel. It seems final. How does everyone else feel?
I want Vicky to state what the cancel part was before we continue on.
It was, the cancellation part was referring to motion 63-26, which effectively did cancel the naturalized trail section.
Councillor Hudson. Deputy Mayor Dickert.
Thank you, Your Worship. Procedurally, can we cancel that? Isn't that changing a motion that we've had? Do we not have to go through the process you talked about earlier, Vicky, to do that?
So this motion is not canceling the previous motion. It is addressing the correspondence that we received requiring action. So what it's stating is that we're deferring making a decision on that correspondence until we've received the report from staff that was requested in the previous motion of March 16th, 6326.
So just to be clear, what we're deferring is just a response to the letters that we received,
Yes.
not the motion, even though we mentioned the motion in your motion.
Through your worship, if you would prefer that we just state that council defer reconsideration or consideration of the correspondence until the report requested. Okay, I will amend it accordingly.
I think that more clearly states what we're actually doing.
We have a lot of rules and procedures and policies that we need to follow. So that's why we have to be very particular with what is said in these motions because it comes back. Councillor Cable.
Thank you, Your Worship. Perhaps the clerk will cut me off because it's not directly aligned with the current motion, but I don't think it's on the floor yet either. So I'm just wondering the timing. So I know that we've talked about, the 20th Street sidewalks. They are kind of going in house by house. The $1.3 million house that's on the ravine, it has a sidewalk built into its driveway. So obviously as they're going along, they will finish that. On the south side, I know we're working with the developer to figure out if we can extend from 22nd Ave A over to 24th. I was kind of under the assumption that we were going to proceed with that sidewalk going north from 19th Street in the fairly near future because it doesn't hinge on any other development. Is it at all possible, for us to get a more timely quote on what it would cost to move that sidewalk, to actually put it in from 19th Street down to 20th on 24th Ave, and to see if there's an opportunity to do that this year with our ongoing construction projects to see if they could add in a sidewalk build? I don't know whether there's infrastructure that needs to go in, and that's the concern about putting the sidewalk on top right now. But just wondering if that's a more timely piece that we can actually proceed with.
Can I ask one question? Are the houses built?
So the house on 20th Street, that one is constructed and it has a sidewalk segment across its front yard. On 18th Street, obviously, there is no plan currently with the developer to put sidewalks from 22nd Ave A over to 24th. So that I understand we have to work with the developer to figure out whether that can happen. But I'm wondering on 24th Avenue, from where the sidewalk currently ends, going over the hill down to the Saugeen River, that piece has nothing to do with the developer. Can we proceed with that in 2026?
Andrew?
Through your worship, possibly. I mean, there's a lot of steps for a project like that. We've got to look at hydro pole relocation, perhaps. We've got to speak with the county because there's grading issues there. There's also 2 residential properties on the west side of that property that we have to take into consideration when it comes to stormwater. So there's quite a few steps to get to that point to get it out for tender and get the work done before the end of the year. Certainly would feel like a stretch. I'm not saying no, but I'm saying, unlikely where we're sitting here today at the start of May.
I guess I'm wondering, does staff feel that the direction is clear enough that there's council will to put a sidewalk on that stretch? Or would you prefer a separate motion to approve proceeding with that sidewalk outside of the whole Cedar West subdivision.
Go ahead, Andrew.
I think to me, who's going to present that report, I'm clear enough to understand where you would like sidewalks, and it'll be broken out accordingly in sections, so you're aware of kind of what those breakouts would be.
Sherry?
I also want to add that council, I think you need to see the complete package. And it may include, okay, you want sidewalks between 19th Street and 20th Street on 24th Ave? Here's your price. You want sidewalks in these other areas in Saugeen Cedar Heights West, as we've been directed? Here's your price. Currently, these are not adopted 2026 budget items. So again, we have that piece to consider as well. Perhaps Clerk Vicky has some thoughts too, because I know she's noted here a couple of things as well. But I think you're better to deal with it as a complete package of information that you can then decide your final direction at that time. Okay, we can do sidewalks here, and otherwise we'll have to budget for here in the future, et cetera.
Andrew?
And currently, you know, it's really the developer's purview when they put those sidewalks in. Right now, they've put them all along, I believe it's 18th, because most of those homes are built. There's less of a risk that it's going to be damaged. Anything that gets damaged from the time they put it in to the time we inspect it at assumption is theirs to fix. So if we ask the developer to put in 20th, you know, per se, to make that link for a loop on the sidewalk earlier, we would ultimately be on the hook if anything were to get damaged through the construction process as well.
Okay, Vicky, you were going to make a comment for like a separate motion. Maybe.
Yeah, I would, based on Andrew's comments as well, until we assume that responsibility for that subdivision, I don't feel it would be appropriate to direct the developer to install sidewalks, as well as the budget implications. With regard to the strong mayor powers and budget amendments, they're very strict in terms of what amendments and changes can be made to a budget. I do have the motion, draft motion ready, rephrased.
Okay.
That council defer consideration of the correspondence requiring action with respect to the East End Trail Loop pending receipt of the staff report outlining the costing for extending sidewalks from 19th Street to 20th Street and 24th Avenue and the potential reallocation of the developer's trail contribution.
Okay, council. So we need a mover and seconder for that. Councillor Cable, Councillor Sackle, mover and seconder. All in favor? Opposed? That is carried. I don't know if Councillor Fleet, are you able to connect for the vote? He's in favor.
Yes, I'm in favor.
Thank you, Councillor Fleet. All right, so next on the agenda is the consent agenda. And other than the 4 trail letters that I am going to ask to be pulled, are there any other items that council wishes to discuss separately? No. Seeing none, I need a mover and seconder to accept the consent agenda, and we are receiving those items for information. So moved by Deputy Mayor Dickert, seconded by Councillor Fleet. Thank you. All in favor? Okay, so we have 4 trail letters that are going to be received for information. So I need a mover and seconder before I highlight those letters. Councillor Hocking and Councillor Sackle. Okay, so item 12.6 is from Derek and Cheryl Ashton. It states, my wife and I are residents of Hanover. I have been a proud member of the Trail Eyes and Ears for many years, I have spoken with many trail users from inside and outside Hanover. The consistent message is that we have a wonderful resource, well-maintained and available to all. Several years ago, since the town was running out of places to grow, we could understand why the choices at the east end of the system were made and supported the original proposal. We were disappointed by council's recent decision and surprised that such a small group of people were able to influence this decision that affects us all. We strongly recommend that all residents be offered the opportunity to understand the issues and have a voice in the trail decision going forward. 12.7 is from Tim Norwood. He states, the cancellation of the trail going through due to a small contingent of people opposed to it is very troubling. As the chairperson of our Planning Advisory Committee, we were always told that the approval of the lots to the east of the trail would in no way affect the eventual joining of the trail, although a new route would be looked at. We approved these based on these assurances many years ago. We have promised our citizens a connecting trail regardless of these lots being sold for housing. Now we learn some of the homeowners don't want a trail near them. They knew before purchasing the properties that the trail was going to be rerouted, and if they didn't know, they should have done their due diligence, as it has been widely discussed for many years. I, for one, am embarrassed to say unknowingly that I have lied to the citizens of Hanover. If I would have known the cancellation of this trail joining to the other trail was even a remote possibility, I never would have voted for the outcome we did. The voice of a few should never be the voice that is heard. The voice that should always be heard is the voice that is the best for the majority of the community, whether they speak up or not. We, meaning our CAO, Rec Department, and Mayor, Planning Advisory and Committee of Adjustments, have always said the trail will be completed and it will be rerouted, and it will once again be an end-to-end completion worthy of a community who values recreation and outdoor activities as a valued lifestyle, as a valued part of our lifestyle. Please, let's make sure we all look to the future when we make this decision and not to the short-term noise we hear from a small segment of our citizens. If we had listened to this noise in the past, we never would have been able to develop the areas we have to date. Our past decisions have been done in a forward-thinking manner, and it has led Hanover to be a place where people want to settle. 12.8 is from Ron Aaron. He states, I have lived on 2nd Avenue for 24 years. My wife and I chose to build a house there because of the environment it offered with nature in our backyard and, of course, the trail. Over the years, spring, summer, fall, and yes, even winter, we have shared this environment with fellow trail users year-round, some coming from other communities while they are doing their shopping. I would hope you might see the value to continue the unique resource the trail system provides our community that others envy and enjoy to bring them here by holding to your commitment to the East End Trail, so my neighbors on the East End can enjoy it as much as we do. 12.9 is from Heidi and Kevin Schaus. And it states, I am writing to say that we are trail users in this community and other communities around Bruce and West Grey counties. Trails build healthy communities. We use our trail to walk 4 seasons and bike the entire route regularly. I am so grateful for the trail system we have, and if there is an opportunity to build upon what we have, we should. If we could maintain a longer route and develop more trails in this community, it becomes a draw for the community. And further states, living with a trail in your backyard only promotes community. Getting out and using it, sharing it, and taking pride in it is something we should aspire to do. We should also provide garbage cans and so users can help keep it up and promote a parking area. Trails help you meet like-minded people in our community. It brings young and old together to share nature in the backyard. And that is the last of the letters. So we are receiving those for information. And we have a mover and seconder. I didn't write down who, but we do. It was Councillor Hocking and Councillor Sackle, all in favor of receiving for information. That is carried. Thank you. All right, so moving on with our agenda, item 13 is staff reports requiring action. The first one is report PRC 0326. The subject is the P&H Center Wading Pool Filter Replacement Project. It's from Laura Kristen, our Director of Parks, Recreation and Culture. And I need a mover and seconder to put this on the floor. Councillor Cable and Councillor Sackle. Laurel.
Thank you, Your Worship. So the town's wading pool, it operates with a sand filtration system. And the sand filtration system is certainly critical to the operations of the pool. It's essential component for water circulation system and in order for the daily operation of that pool to continue. Want me to hold?
Laura, if you just want to wait.
Yeah, no
Okay.
problem.
I think we're good. People who are leaving, so you can continue.
All right, thank you, Your Worship. So the expected life cycle of a piece of equipment such as this is approximately 20 years. Despite our efforts to locate the exact age of the current and filter, it is a little bit unknown. It actually is, the purchase was prior to our current asset management software, so we can only assume it's before then. We also have records that confirm that the internal sand and laterals were replaced in 2017 as well as 2022. So that gives us a little bit of a bread trail to understand the age of this piece of equipment is certainly beyond its expected life cycle. We've been receiving reports of sand accumulating in the pool bottom following some backwash cycles, and investigation determined that sand is entering the pool through those return jets. And although, just to clarify, there is no risk to patrons in this situation, it's just an indication that the internal components are failing and that the unit is approaching the end of its life cycle. In addition, the filter itself has also the casing, so the external components have also developed a minor water leak. These issues were not anticipated. Replacement was not included in the 2026 capital budget. So the town's aquatic contractor, Acapulco Pools, inspected the filter during their most recent visit, and they have formally recommended the replacement of the unit based on this information. Unfortunately, the challenge with this project is no one is really able to clearly identify reliably how to predict how long that this filter is actually going to last and remain operational. So the best case scenario would be that we would continue, yes, with a little bit of that, the continuing the cleanup required with the sand. That best case scenario would be to continue to the 2027 budget. However, that does come with significant risk because the unit could fail prior to that. So should a failure occur, the lead time is approximately 6 to 8 weeks for that filter. It is not a typical part that is, it's a specialized component, so it's not kept in stock. So from an operational standpoint, what we see as the best alternative at this point would be to replace it during our annual September shutdown. That would be the least disruptive approach, and to reduce the risk of downtime. So Acapulco has recommended that we place that order now. We get that part in. They hold the part until our scheduled shutdown in September. And this approach reduces some risk by ensuring, number one, if that filter does fail earlier, then we would really only probably be down for about 1 week versus 6 to 8 weeks. And then also, assuming we can make it to that September shutdown, it is replaced during that shutdown, which would have zero interruption to our operations.
Financial implications. So based on the contractor's recommendation, the risk to service continuity and potential impact to the pool operations, staff support proceeding with this replacement as a 2026 unplanned repair to ensure the continuity of our service and minimal downtime. The replacement cost has been quoted at $34,912 plus HST. Deferring the work till the 2027 budget deliberations would increase that risk. And given the timing, staff recommend funding the repair through facility reserves, which would result in an estimated remaining reserve balance of $64,000. So the link to the strategic plan is goal 1, which is safe and reliable infrastructure. And the recommendation before you this evening is that report PRC 0326 P&H Center Wading Pool Filter Replacement Project be received, and that the project be contracted to Acapulco Pools in Kitchener, Ontario, to complete the sand filter replacement project at a cost of $34,912 plus HST, with funding to be provided through reserves.
Thank you, Laura. My question was, does that amount include the installation, and is there any value in the old filter?
Thank you for those questions. So the existing filter itself, because it's at that end of life, we did ask Acapulco if that's something that would have any value, and unfortunately, no, it does not have any value. So the answer is no to the first question. And then the second question, does the installation, or does the quoted price include the installation? And yes, it includes installation, commissioning, and training for staff.
Very good. Thank you. Councillor Sackle.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thanks, Laura, for your report. Well, as a pool user myself, I know how popular the parent and taught classes are with not only the children, but the parents and their grandparents, who some of those ladies do aquafit and then they do the parent and taught class after. So I agree. We should order the replacement filter now, replace it during our September shutdown, if it lasts that long. And yes, use our facility reserves. I know they'd take a hit, but I would hate to see the wading pool shut down for an extended period of time. So I support you.
Thank you. Other comments, questions? Deputy Mayor?
Thank you, Your Worship. And I would echo Councillor Sackle's comments there. I believe that we cramp our open hours at the pool as much as we need to right now. So I think it would be a shame to see it fail and into an extended shutdown. So I think that using the reserves is that's what they're for. It would be one less capital thing we have to worry about at the next budget cycle. So I certainly support going ahead.
Thank you. I'll call the question. All in favor of PRC 0326? That is carried. Item 13.2 is report HR 0426. The subject is the CAO recruitment update. It's been prepared by Melissa Hilgendorf, our Human Resources Manager, and Sherry Walden, our CAO. Sherry is going to highlight it, but I need a mover and seconder first. Councillor Cable and Councillor Hudson. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Worship. So time is ticking here, and my retirement, as you know, is effective December 31st, 2026. At the March 16th meeting, your direction with respect to report CAO-06-26 was to engage the services of an external recruitment firm and also confirmed appointments to the CAO ad hoc committee, which are Mayor Patterson, Deputy Mayor Dickert, and Councillor Hudson. On April 2nd, we issued our request for proposal with respect to the scope of work and all the details related to the recruitment ask. We received 13 eligible submissions by the April 17th deadline, and at our April 21st, 2026 meeting of the ad hoc committee, we pretty much unanimously selected, all 5 of us had Waterhouse Executive Search as our one of our top 3. So that spoke to the quality and quality of their submission and their ability to undertake this work. We held a kickoff meeting on April 29th. With the objective and goal to appoint a new CAO by August 10th, 2026, prior to the potential lame duck period. The position has been posted as of last week. And as you know, in the report that we presented in March, we estimated that between approximately 25,000 to 30,000, depending on the project scope. Waterhouse's upset limit is 21.5, including disbursements. As this expenditure, we're kind of a night for not having expenditures in the budget, but as this expenditure is not currently included in the 2026 adopted mayoral budget, and in consultation with our Director of Corporate Services and Treasurer, we recommend that allotting up to 25,000 from general reserves to cover the costs related to CAO recruitment. You may ask, well, what's the additional money? And we may find that if we feel there may be legal fees and some other miscellaneous costs that aren't included as part of the Waterhouse package with respect to the recruitment, that we could then have covered accordingly. So the recommendation before you this evening is that report HR-04-26 CAO recruitment update be received for information, and that council approve the allocation of up to 25,000 from general reserves to support the CAO recruitment process. I or your ad hoc committee members would be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Sherry. Are there any questions or comments? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor of HR 0426? That is carried, and Councillor Fleet is online and in favor. Carried. Item 13.3 is report CL 0426. The subject is the election sign bylaw. It's from Vicki McDonald, our Manager of Legislative Services and Clerk. And I need a mover and seconder to put that on the floor. Deputy Mayor Dickert and Councillor Sacco. Vicki?
Thank you, Your Worship, and through you, hopefully my voice will hang in there. Municipalities are authorized under the Municipal Act to regulate signs, including election signs. Any election sign bylaw must be content neutral and respect freedom of expression under the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms. A recent court decision with regard to overly restrictive election sign timelines indicated that it is not permissible. And one of the reasons that we're bringing forward this election sign bylaw and amending the and amending the timeframe for erecting election signs was because of this court decision. Currently, the town does not have a bylaw regulating election signs, which can create uncertainty for candidates, and it's difficult for enforcement during election periods. In past municipal elections, staff would determine the timeframe for placement of signs and include this in the candidates package. So in 2022, I believe the time period that we said signs could be erected was September 12th or mid-September until Election Day. The proposed election sign bylaw would establish clear rules and guidelines respecting where election signs may be placed, the permitted sign type, sizes, and heights, installation and safety requirements, and the timelines for placement and removal. Key objectives of the bylaw include promoting public safety near roads, sidewalks, and intersections, maintaining clear sight lines for pedestrians and motorists, protecting municipal infrastructure and rights of way, and clarifying responsibilities for the installation and removal. Additionally, it provides a fair and consistent system for all candidates and third-party advertisers. The adoption of the election sign bylaw will provide clarity, fairness, and consistency for election signs and align with other municipalities. It will also improve the administration and enforcement of these signs. The financial implications are minimal, as implementation and enforcement can be managed within the existing budget. And my computer screen is just going up and down like crazy. The bylaw supports the town's strategic plan, open and responsible government, by improving transparency, consistency, and enforcement. The recommendation is that report CL 04-2026, election sign bylaw, be received, and that council approve adoption of the election sign bylaw 3395-26 to regulate the placement, timing, display, and removal of election signs. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Vicky. Questions, comments? Councillor Sackel.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you, Vicky, for your report. I'm more of a comment. I think as people running for council, they're going to have to be aware that when they ask a homeowner if they can put an election sign on their lawn, they need to know the rules, the bylaw, and they cut their lawn. You know, your sign is on their lawn for maybe 8 weeks. They need to know that they can't put it within 0.5 if there's a sidewalk there, or 1 meter if it's the edge of the street. So I just am cautioning anyone who runs for council to be aware of that. Thank you.
Go ahead, Vicky.
Thank you, Your Worship and Councillor Sackel. Those requirements will be contained in the candidate packages. A copy of the bylaw will be provided to candidates so that they're aware of those regulations, as well as the County of Grey has specific regulations for election signs on county roads as well.
Other comments? Councillor Cable.
Thank you, Your Worship. Vicky, could you clarify, I think in the same section as Councillor Sackel's looking at, it talks about you can't put a sign within 5 meters of a driveway on a town road. Is that like so we know that we're a half a meter in from the roadway, and then is it from the driveway's edge? I had to be 5 meters over on their property. That would be, I'm just trying to understand what it's stating.
It would be so that it doesn't interfere with sight triangles if anyone trying to exit the driveway. It's a safety precaution, so that, yeah, it's along the frontage facing the street from the driveway.
So I guess similarly, H talks about you can't put a sign within 10 meters of an intersection pedestrian signal. So if I'm envisioning what usually happens at the Canadian Tire corner, so those would all be backed up 10 meters from that intersection. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And I guess one point of clarification, it's currently stated in here that signs would go up after nomination day. That seems like a very long time for me. Right? That's over 2 months to have signs, and as someone who's done this, it's a lot to maintain. Like that's a very long time period, right? Of trying to make sure that everybody's complying with the rules. Is there a reason why we want it to be so long? I think in the last election, it was September 12th. It was about 6 weeks.
That does stem from what other area municipalities are doing in consideration of that court case, because we cannot limit an individual's right to freedom of speech. And that has been what area clerks are similarly doing in terms of a time frame, so that we don't infringe on those rights.
Anyone else? Comments, questions? I too thought it was a long time. Like 4 weeks would be good. I'm sure our residents don't want to keep looking at signs for a couple of months, but that you don't have to put them up that early. So, okay, I'll call the question. All in favor of CL 0426. That is carried, and Councillor Fleet is in favor. Okay, another one, Vicky. We've got 13.4. This is report CL 0526. The subject is discharge of firearms bylaw amendment, and it's from Vicky McDonald, our Manager of Legislative Services and Clerk. I need a mover and seconder for this. Councillor Cable and Deputy Mayor Dickert. Thank you. Vicky?
Thank you, Your Worship. At the February 7th, 2023 regular council meeting, council approved the adoption of bylaw 3256-23 to regulate the discharge of firearms in the town of Hanover. On May 1st, 2026, an order issued by the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing came into effect, transferring certain lands from the municipality of West Gray to the town of Hanover. As a result of that boundary adjustment, staff have initiated a review of existing municipal bylaws to ensure they reflect the characteristics and use of the properties within the adjustment area and to minimize disruption to established activities and routines of those residents. As part of this review, the bylaw regulating the discharge of firearms within the town of Hanover has been examined, and the recommended additions are noted in red font in the updated bylaw attached. So basically what that indicates is that in the areas that are coming into the town of Hanover, there is no change to their use of firearms in those areas. They're still restricted within the urban area of the town of Hanover. But as you can see on the map, those highlighted areas will be subject to the same use of firearms that they had previously been used to in the municipality of West Gray. So the amendments in the bylaw are to provide for that. It is anticipated that there will be no significant financial implications associated with the amendments to this bylaw. The link to the strategic plan is healthy and welcoming community, balanced growth, and open and responsible government. And the recommendation is that report CL 05-26, discharge of firearms bylaw amendment be received, and that council approve the adoption of bylaw 3396-26 to amend bylaw 3256-23 to regulate the discharge of firearms in the town of Hanover. And again, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Vicki, and thanks for preparing that report and bylaw. That was a common question that we heard a fair bit, so I'm glad we're on top of it. Any questions or comments? Sherry has a comment.
Council, I want to pat Vicki's back a little bit here, as well as Ken Campbell, our bylaw officer. As you can appreciate, the boundary adjustment has meant for a long list of tasks to be implemented with transition, and we're making our way through those. But we as staff identified priority items, and as Mayor Sue has noted, this was one that we heard a lot of questions about. So I think it was last Monday, I said to Vicki, we need to have this on Monday's agenda. So thanks to her and Ken, they've made that happen. And as you know, correspondence occurred with our new residents last Wednesday. They received their letters on Thursday, and Friday morning at 9 a.m. one of the first questions I was asked was about hunting. So it is very timely that this is on today's agenda. So thank you to Vicki and Ken.
Very good. Okay, I'll call the question because I don't see any raised hands. All in favor of report CL 05-26. And Councillor Fleet is in favor. That is carried. Okay, item 14 is committees of council minutes. We have 3 sets of minutes that will be covered by one motion. So I need a mover and seconder before those minutes are highlighted. Councillor Sackle and Councillor Hudson. So item 14.1 is the CAO Ad Hoc Recruitment Committee minutes. There's 2 sets of minutes here, April 21st and April 29th. The committee members provided their evaluation input to select a recruitment firm, which you heard already, and consensus was to proceed with the Waterhouse business. The preliminary recruitment timeline was reviewed, and again, it's very aggressive, but we're making headway with it. The CAO job posting was reviewed, and no further updates were noted by the committee, and job posting locations were confirmed pending further insight from external recruitment services. And the next set of minutes, which is on the 29th, the successful recruitment firm, and I'm going to try this, John Stangovicius. close. I'm going to ask him again how he pronounces his surname. He presented a CAO recruitment project to the committee, and the committee confirmed use of a stakeholder survey for key parties and job advertisement avenues. And it was confirmed that Sherry, our CAO, and Melissa is our HR coordinator, is going to be the contact for Waterhouse. Let's see. And the committee reviewed an email information package that Waterhouse will share with prospective candidates. And open to questions if anyone has any. Seeing none, we'll move on to item 14.2. This is the Age-Friendly Advisory Committee minutes. Deputy Mayor Dickert.
Thank you, Your Worship. The April 13th meeting, we appointed Kayla Sales as the chair for the remaining term of this committee. We completed a review of the recent Active Aging Expo and celebrated the success of the event and identified some opportunities for improvement. Among those, we're allowing more time for interaction with vendors and more space for vendors and ways to promote the event. Committee members offered content suggestions for the May newsletter. We discussed the upcoming senior games. The local senior games changed the name from local senior games to Hanover Senior Spring Classic Games in an effort to reduce confusion between the local senior games and the Ontario senior games. So hopefully that will help in registration. We also shared information on upcoming events such as the Walk for Alzheimer's, the presentation on memory and aging with Alzheimer's, and the library programs, and it was upcoming at that point in time. Earth Day celebrations is past now. Thank you.
Very good. Any questions, comments? Great. We'll move on to 14.3. This is the Parks, Recreation and Culture Advisory Committee special meeting minutes. Councillor Cable.
Thank you, Your Worship. Parks, Recreation and Culture Advisory Committee met on April the 21st. It was a special meeting, so we had one item to review. Our chair, Keith Hopkins, brought forward a draft letter, which was very helpful for the committee to be able to get a starting point from, and committee input was sought in order to refine that letter, which was in the council package this evening. That was the only item that was discussed, and ultimately there was a motion that was approved to forward that letter on to council for consideration.
Thank you. And I don't see any hands raised, so that was the last set of minutes, and the motion moved by Councillor Sackle, seconded by Councillor Hudson, is to receive the information and approve the recommendations contained in the minutes that were just highlighted. All in favor? And Councillor Fleet is in favor. That is carried. Item 15 is bylaws. At this time, we have two bylaws. I need a mover and seconder before I ask the clerk for the intent of the bylaw. Councillor Cable and Councillor Sacco. Okay, Vicky?
Through your worship, bylaw number 3395-26 is a bylaw to implement an election sign bylaw. And bylaw 3396-26 is a bylaw to amend the discharge of firearms bylaw number 3256-23.
Thank you. So it's been moved by Councillor Cable, seconded by Councillor Sackle, that bylaw numbers 3395-26 and 3396-26 be introduced and that they be taken as read a first, second, and third time, finally passed, signed by the mayor and the clerk, sealed with the seal of the corporation, and inserted in the bylaw book. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? That is carried. Councillor Fleet is in favor. This time, item 16, I'll ask if there's any notices of motion. There are none. Item 17, good news and celebrations. Councillor Fleet.
Thank you, Your Worship. I have some good news. This is coming from the Hanover Lawn Bowling Club. They're hosting two tournaments this summer. The first one is the Provincial Senior Triples, and it takes place June 23rd and 24th. they just got the okay. They're going to be hosting the Canadian Youth Championship. These are bowlers from right across Canada. They're very excited about this tournament, and they'll be here for a week, and that's August 10th to August 16th. So they're pretty happy about getting the Canadian Youth Championship in Hanover this summer.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Fleet. Good information. Councillor Hawking.
Thank you, Your Worship. I am very pleased to make this announcement that the Western Ontario Drama League Festival 2026 is being hosted by the Hanover Community Players. Step into the spotlight and shine. 3 community theater groups are coming to Hanover to perform and compete. It's at the Hanover Civic Theatre. The doors open at 6 and the shows begin at 7. The 3 communities competing are from Kincardine, the Kincardine Theatre Guild, taking care of the Browns. On Friday, May the 15th, Theatre Woodstock, Little Women. And Saturday, May the 16th, Godrich Little Theatre, 6 dance lessons in 6 weeks. The adjudication follows each show. And there's a gala at the event carriage center on Sunday at 11:30. So if you want more information, go to www.wodl.festival.ca. It's going to be something fantastic, and it's a great attraction for us to be hosting it. Their tickets are $30 per show, but if you purchase all 3, you get a deal at $75 or $25 per show. So get on the internet, get to the box office, and purchase your 3 tickets. You will not be disappointed. So thank you.
Very good. Councillor Sacco.
Thank you, Your Worship. I have 2 items. First of all, on that note of theater, I'd like to make a special shout out to the Hanover Community Players on their recent production of Unnecessary Farce. It was a hilarious production and a great opportunity to have a lot of laughs for the evening. It takes a lot of work to do the kind of show that they put on with the costumes and the entrances and exits and funny lines, and it was just wonderful. So congratulations, Hanover Community Players. Secondly, Wednesday this week, the 6th, McHappy Day is Wednesday. And the proceeds this year are going to the Ronald McDonald House in London and the area food banks. So make an effort, go to McDonald's, buy something, maybe buy a raffle gift that's on the table that maybe I collected that you are really going to enjoy for your family. So hopefully we'll see you on Wednesday. Thank you.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor Dickert.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just want to congratulate the Legion Old Timers Hockey Club on a reunion that they pulled together. I'm not a part of that elite group of skaters, but they had a great time at the Legion on the 25th of April, I believe it was. And all reports from people I've talked to that were there said it was just great to bring all those people together again and bring back some great memories. The other thing I want to do is congratulate the Hike for Hospice organizers. They had a great event yesterday. They raised $51,000 locally here, and that's up from last year. They were $48,000 last year, so they made $51,000 this year, and that was with 7 less hikers. So all in all, a very successful event, and thank you to all the people who volunteered to make that a success.
Councillor Hudson.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just wanted to thank the Hanover Bentinck Brant Agricultural Society for putting on the You Make the Difference seminar last Thursday. Thank you. Blur of a week. They did an excellent job. The speaker, Ian Hill, was fabulous and touched on the generational impact of how our volunteer system, if we don't step up in 5 years, it's going to be pretty much disappearing. So it was a great night, free event. They fed us and gave us lots of information. So that was a kudos to them for that.
Anyone else? Counselor Cable.
Thank you, Your Worship. Certainly just would like to recognize the grand opening of Flex Gym, which opened on 9th Street this past weekend. It was great to see community members there and just really great to talk with the owners about their current plans, but also future hopes for that space, which is kind of revitalizing a building that wasn't used for a long time. So it's great to see that revitalization in our downtown and the success that they've had since opening last year.
Thank you. I just want to comment the Legion Old Timers hockey. I brought congratulations to them and I took them down memory lane, 1976, when the Old Timers played against the Swedes. They arranged this through the Peterborough Hockey Association back in those days. And it was a lopsided score, I think 10-4 for the Swedes, but they played the Swedes' national anthem twice. So they were really excited. And the Legion Pipe Band was there and they thought that was great too. So, and I did list the names of all the players and some of those people were in the audience at the Legion. So it was a good walk down memory lane. And just a further comment, because, I don't have Councillor Fleet to talk about racing or whatever, but I have this feeling, Councillor Hawking, that someday we're going to hear about you acting in one of the community plays. I just think that's going to happen. I just know. Okay, I'm going to ask staff if there's any updates. Councillor Hawking?
This is something that I found very, very great. I don't know the word, but I was watching a hockey game in Buffalo, and the gal was singing the national anthem, the Canadian national anthem, and the mic went off, and all the spectators in Buffalo sang "O Canada." It was really, really special. So that just reminded me when you talked about the Swedish national anthem. And I have to share another time when I sang "O Canada." As you know, I went to France with my wife on a choral group, and we were touring a wine vineyard, and we were up in the top room getting our little shots of wine, and we looked out the window, and there was a flag from France, a flag from the community, which is Colmar, and then an American flag. And the group said, "What's the American flag doing?" And he, sorry, ran downstairs, got a Canadian flag, put it in the window, and we all sang "O Canada." Another highlight. It's great. And I must say, when they see your pin that you're from Canada, they give you a nice big smile. And this was in France and different cities. So very proud to be a Canadian. Thank you.
Very good. Sherry?
So I mentioned the boundary adjustment communications that occurred last week. And I just, again, for those that are listening and our residents in that area, we certainly welcome you to the town of Hanover, although you've really probably been on the fringe and considered yourself town of Hanover residents for some time. I would encourage those residents, if you did not receive that communication, to please contact our office. It does include important dates, including your garbage collection, which starts this Thursday. And so I can share with council and our listening public that we did have a number of inquiries Friday morning accordingly. And I know of at least one resident who visited the library and was very pleased that she now gets to access the Hanover Public Library. So we're receiving the positive comments as well as some constructive as expected. But we look forward to our continued communications with those residents accordingly. As I noted, we as staff have a long list of implementation and transition things that still need to occur. But if you didn't receive a letter from the town of Hanover and you're in the boundary adjustment area, please contact our office as soon as possible and we'll make sure you get that document. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Hawking?
Just a question of Sherry. I was asked by a resident who lives to the south of 4. Does that, like the drive-in road, does that become 24th Avenue?
To be determined with urban roads, I would say, like the whole county urban roads transfer, and your mic is on. Yes, they're both on. We're all on. All our mics are on. Anyways, so to be determined with the county's urban roads transfer piece, if that happens, there's potential that that might become 24th Ave all the way from concession 2 SDR to concession 2 NDR. Right now, we are maintaining the current road references for those properties because, again, as soon as we change road names, addresses need to be changed, and we don't need to go down that road twice, no pun intended, if that's the case. So we'll just pause on that until we know the status of the county roads transfer. Yeah, sure. Just like everybody else does.
Okay, any further on staff? Any updates you want to share? No? Okay. We'll move on. Item 18, upcoming committee meetings. The dates are listed on this agenda and the website. Are there any dates that need to be adjusted? Seeing none, we'll move on to item 19, important dates and announcements. And we just have one. That's the next regular council meeting, which is on Tuesday because of Victoria Day, the long weekend, Tuesday, May 19th at 4 p.m. We have a confirmation of preceding bylaws. I need a mover and seconder. Councillor Hocking and Deputy Mayor Dickert. And I'll ask the clerk for the intent of the bylaw.
Bylaw number 3397-26 is a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the May 4th, 2026 regular council meeting.
So thank you. It's been moved by Councillor Hocking, seconded by Deputy Mayor Dickert, that bylaw number 3397-26 be introduced and it be taken as read a first, second, and third time, finally passed, signed by the mayor and the clerk, sealed with the seal of the corporation, and inserted in the bylaw book. All in favor? Councillor Fleet is in favor. That is carried. We have one final motion, which is adjournment at, yes?
There is one change with the. There is one change with the meetings for the Parks, Recreation, and Culture Advisory. It is on Tuesday, May the 26th, instead of Wednesday.
Thank you. I'm just going to repeat that. Going back to committee meetings. Item 18.8, the Parks, Recreation, and Culture Advisory Committee meeting has been changed to Tuesday, May 26th, rather than the Wednesday, as there is a conflict on the Wednesday. Okay, so I read that. I read it all. We're just calling the questions, right? It's been moved by, we're adjourning. Sorry, I was going to do the bylaw again. So I need a mover and seconder to adjourn, and I'm taking Councillor Fleet and Councillor Hocking. We are adjourning at 6:22. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you.